Speaking of disasters, let's frickin' go. Let's talk about this because I do. So when we got a chance to get linked up with you guys, I still owe a big thank you over to Cal for linking us together, getting to watch your project, and just how frickin' wild it is. It's and it's kind of funny because like Jacob and I were talking one time on one of our recent episodes because we were noticing like a weird trend going on in movies right now, which is like this main character not really comfortable in his own skin, trying to shed something, transform. And it's like, what has been for you guys, because you're going to all these festivals, you're getting a ton of wins. I want to talk to you guys about what the Hollywood Horror Fest was like this year, where you guys got another award. But like, what does that feel like when you put something up that's kind of that audacious, violent, but you also got to find that as a viewer, kind of pinpointing those little things where you can connect with. What's that reception been like from people who have watched it? People coming up to you. What's that felt like?
It's been amazing. I mean, at the Hollywood Horror Fest, I was sitting there and I was alone because he couldn't make it.
I had a wedding.
And,
I see you guys.
I was out of town for a wedding. Thank you. My cousin got married that weekend.
and my girl was working the Haunted Hayride. She's a stunt performer. She flies. She's a
Well,
flying.
this was at the awards fest, right? You guys were both.
So no, she couldn't go.
Oh.
So it was just me. And I was
Solo act.
Solo. I was waiting for a buddy. All of a sudden, I hear someone over here go Party Panda, and I look over, and it's this group of like 20-something people who had their own film in the festival, like 2 different groups of people. And they're like, we've been talking about your film all day. We can't stop saying Party Panda like that. And it was like, all right, let's take a picture. And I go, say Party Panda. And they all went, Party Panda. And they took a picture. And as I was leaving, going to the car, me and Terrence, my buddy, showed up. We're walking to his car. All of a sudden, a car drives by. Party Panda, beep, beep, woo! It's been great, man. It's been great.
Yeah, I think it's been really cool to see people's reaction. The film it's interesting because it kind of rides a line between, it's not a classic genre film per se, it's not like straightforward horror. There's a lot more psychological elements to it, and there's a lot more it's like a thinking man's horror, right?
Yeah.
So it's kind of like the way I describe it is it's like this story about mental health and bullying and what happens when somebody takes it way too far, when they get pushed too far and they just take it to the extreme.
Yeah.
And so it's been interesting because that really gels with some people and really lands us into a lot of festivals because of that. It also, on the other hand, kind of omits us from certain festivals, like some of the more like straightforward horror festivals.
Slashers.
They're kind of like, but it's not really like, dumb person walks by a wall of chainsaws and gets hacked up kind of situation.
Right.
So it's been kind of an interesting thing, but the audience reaction every time we've screened it has been just incredible. People really laughing at the right moments and gasping at the right moments, and just kind of walking away from it feeling like there's like a connection to Myron, the main character, that people aren't expecting.
Yeah. I agree. That's what I felt when I was watching. I felt like very connected with Myron, just because, not even from Meatloaf, because I love my dog, and I don't know if I would do the same thing, but I'm like, hey, that's an interesting thought. Why are they trolling him about this?
Just a little bit off.
A little, right? Just a little, but not feeling inside when they like kind of lit Meatloaf on fire. You're like, okay, maybe that is actually a birth of a serial killer, right? I can actually do that. So I really enjoyed that part of it.
Like, to me, one of the coolest things was like the first day of filming, we were in the bar location, and we have like Tim and Brad and Joey, and all the jocks are there. And
thanks to the Barrel, by the way, for giving us that space.
Absolutely, they were rock stars.
And that was in the Valley?
Yeah.
Sherman Oaks.
And,
I was trying to point every time I was looking, just
Van Nuys Boulevard, the Barrel Tavern.
So we're filming those kind of first scenes, and everybody obviously had like read everything and kind of knew where it was going and everything. But it's like as we were filming those first scenes, and they're kind of like all picking on him. Like, each one of them at different times was like, man, I really feel bad for this guy.
Yeah. Which is always what you want.
I was like, I feel bad for him too. And I've read the script 50 times and I know what happened. But I feel bad for the guy too. Like, everybody's
the other actors
flicking his head.
the other actors were actually saying, I really feel bad. Are
like,
you okay?
Man, this sucks. Like, and meanwhile, he's like, let me have it. Bring it full force. Which was awesome because I feel like all of that stuff really came through like really well on screen. There's just a lot of. Everybody nailed it. I mean, Danny killed it with, his acting and everybody else just nailed their parts and just really kind of, when the camera was off, everybody was friendly and, having a good time. But as soon as it would turn on, it was like, kind of reminded me of like I used to do WWE a lot. I used to produce the entrances for those guys. And it's like as soon as they walk out onto the stage, they become like the heel or like the good guy or like, backstage they're all talking and they're all friends and stuff. As soon as it's like time to go, and there's like a switch that flips and like everybody was just like 100% in on their character.
And now when we talk about that switch is flipped, now when Myron gets into it with his mother, right?
Yeah.
That panda that kills her, right? Is that what creates the genesis of Party Panda? Like, what was that?
Well, you think about this. One of the reasons I wrote it this way because I wanted it to be deeper than just your regular horror. I wanted to show why he made the change, what abuse was given to him by God, and what was given to him by people around him, and he just gets pushed to that point. I was picked on as a kid really bad. And then I got home, my father was kind of rough too. So I just knew exactly how that felt, exactly how people did it. And it's just because he's taking care of his mother, there's nothing he can do about it. He's a son. A lot of people get trapped into that.
Yeah.
They have to take it. They don't have the money to put their parent in a home. And he does, so he's afraid to face the world. So he's going to college for 20 years, and he's just trying to get by, just trying to eke out a little bit of a life. And every time he does, he gets knocked back down. And that moment is where he just collapses.
Definitely like the moment
implodes.
Of no return. Because I like to think of it as like Mama is kind of his prison at home.
Yep.
And he even says that.
I said that
at one
line,
point.
I improvised a speech there.
He's imprisoned at school by being bullied by everybody, and he's obviously the odd guy out, and he's, like socially awkward and just doesn't know how to relate to people, and then he gets home and he's kind of trapped in this world where he's taking care of his mom who doesn't even know who he is half the time, and that's kind of her thing. That's her thing that brings her back is the pandas. She's obsessed with pandas. She puts on the documentary, and that kind of grounds her and brings her back to reality.
Keeps her calm.
And so when that happens and it kills her accidentally, it's just like overload moment, and that just kind of flips the switch. And then naturally, of course, he goes to what's comfortable, which becomes the panda. So it kind of is like, it's almost like grounding him then. Yeah. It's like he adopted her kind of psychoses and ability to be grounded by this thing.
But I love this. I love the organic way it happens.
Yeah, I did too.
He's holding the dog, and he doesn't. It's not like he's thinking of doing it. He's holding the dog. He's, "Who are you?" in the mirror, and then he puts it down. And he goes like this, "Who are you?" And the ash from the dog darkened his eyes, which was a cool...
It was a smart way of doing it. It was
really
cool.
It wasn't like cool. It wasn't premeditated kind of a thing.
Right.
It was definitely very accidental in his world.
Yes.
That kind of became...
But it was almost like destiny.
Where you think about what, movie that just came out recently with, not Joker 2, but the original when, it is meditating. He's been doing it for years and years.
Right.
You took it in the direction of it's on that brink, and you take in the way you talk about feeling trapped. Like if you think about owning a certain type of animal, I think it's like goldfish can actually grow to be very, very big depending on how much access you give them. Myron grew up, even though he's at college, mentally, psychologically, he's in this just tight container.
Right.
And it's an interesting way of thinking about, it's not premeditated, it's coming unconsciously and finally getting that one little key to just open up a floodgate.
Yeah, it's like destiny. It's almost like
suddenly so free that he doesn't know what the hell to do with himself about it. It's like suddenly all of the parameters have dropped, and it's like he steps out and he's like, holy shit, that's scary out there, what do I do? And goes from there.
And he lets go of all the rules, and he just
And it is interesting
and
too.
Chaos ensues.
Yep. and there's always the interesting thing with horror movies, slasher movies, is you know, people that don't necessarily deserve to die, you're still kind of watching going, yeah, but you maybe shouldn't have done like X, Y, and Z with this person. Like, you know,
right?
We tried to primarily keep it to people that had really done him wrong, but you know, everybody slips up, right?
So like, in taking with that too. So like, when you're filming, which parts did you feel, either as actor, director, like which ones were really tough to film, either because of, you know, difficulty of the actual scene and the content, versus which ones were really hard to film because of just, again, like the absurdity of what it is you're trying to portray, what the message is you're trying to do. And I can remember being an actor, you know, years and years ago, you're always present in the fact of, what I'm doing is absolutely ridiculous. Like, you know, like you're putting on, whether it's a dinner scene or anything. Exactly. Like, what did you guys feel like for both of you was the toughest?
I could say for me as the actor, you know, I mean, I'm sure he's had plenty of difficulties with the. There was one night where there was a guy that was living at the house at the location. He didn't know we paid for 12 hours, and it was like gonna go until 3, 5 in the morning, and he came and just yelled at the entire crew. And it's not even his house, but you know, we had that, so we rushed a few shots.
That made it a bit difficult. That scene in general, that's the pool table scene towards the end, and that scene in general was very difficult physically because of the blocking. There's just so many people and so many moving parts and trying to get the right coverage for everything, and so I would say like physically that was probably the hardest scene to get.
Yeah.
But I think from like an emotional standpoint, or from like an acting / trying to get the message across kind of a standpoint, some of the other scenes were pretty difficult as well, and they would probably speak to that more so than me. But
there were moments where you know, it's when you got two things going on. You got everybody trying to set up the shot, everybody trying to get everything done. I have to get into that emotion in the moment, and there were a couple times where that everybody was having such a good time.
It's like, let's clear the room, respect the crowd.
Some of the actors were talking and joking, and I go, guys, and I didn't yell, but I'm like, guys, give me this, and I breathe.
Because you have to get into that mind space, and it's like, and as you know, like when your head is 15 feet tall on a screen,
and he helped me with that.
The littlest thing can be seen, and it's like, so I think definitely like the scenes with Mama when you're breaking down just before that kind of scuffle happens with them.
Yep.
Some of the bus bench stuff.
Yep.
You know, because there's just like, you're out in a park and there's, you know,
cars driving,
the world happening all around you, and it's like, how do you get into this space of like, you know, this kind of slightly derailed psychotic space of like, my dog just died and I had him stuffed and he's in this brown paper bag. You know, and meanwhile I'm also trying to hit on this girl that just sat down on the bench next to me because maybe I have a chance here.
Right.
Like, so it's just kind of a fucked up mentality to end up in
the emotional roller coaster of that scene, you know, because I'm thinking about the dog, but then I get a little hope with her. My tears start to subside a little bit, but then I go, oh no, she's never gonna be with me, and then I go back into that.
I just remember with that one, we would start rolling and just kind of give it a good we'd even give it like a good 2 minutes before we'd start rolling.
Yeah.
And you'd get into the right space, and then we'd kind of start.
That was
rolling,
one good thing. He understood that.
Wait for it.
That I needed those moments.
And then we would go, you know, because it's like, because that reads. I mean, all of that stuff reads, and it's like you can add things in post, but why? Why try? You know, if you can get it in camera, you know, you owe it to the audience to do that. I mean, we live in a world of AI and, you know, like, fix it in post. Let's add a bunch of bullshit later on.
Fake tears?
We'd like it to be raining. Oh yeah, you can do little.
They do fake tears now.
Everything. I mean,
I'm never gonna believe a best actor or best actress nomination.
The only place we use that in the entire film, to be honest, is when he's looking in the mirror. And we had done some makeup on, he had been, you know, the guy had, Brad punches him in the nose the night before at the bar, and he had some makeup on and he's trying to cover it up, and I'm like, man, I just want it to be like a little bit further than it is, so I give him a black eye. And I did that in post.
Yeah.
Which came out pretty good, don't tell anybody.
I did.
You just did.
But,
coming off from there, that didn't happen.
Let's edit that. It came out really well, and I was just like, I was like, okay, like I was like that. I could see how that's a slippery slope. You know, you want to suddenly glaze over everything and like
the key
take
is
it to the next level, but it's like
but the key is
less is more.
What we wanted to do was get the real emotion there first.
You have to. Yeah.
Because some people like, we didn't get the emotion, but we can amp up the music. We can do some things to trick the audience.
That's a big thing, and we tried to really avoid all of that as well. Like the guy, Josh Chikover, did our score and wrote all the original stuff, with the exception of the different bands that we used their songs. And you know, I really, when I was meeting with him and we were talking about it, it's really like, I really don't want anything to be heavy-handed. I don't want the music to tell us how to feel.
Right.
We have to let the film tell us how to feel, and the music should accentuate it, but not like exclamate it. You know, like not not drive it.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. That was in my notes. I really enjoyed the music. I felt like the music was really good in the movie.
Yeah,
I really enjoyed
he
that
wrote
part.
all of that stuff, just all original stuff. Like I'd go over and we'd listen to it, and I'd give him some notes, and he'd turn it around and come out with a new version a couple days later, and he just really did an amazing job with that. And all of the musicians, I mean, we got some really talented musicians that people haven't quite heard about yet that they really should. And, we're going to start up a little Spotify
that'd be cool.
soundtrack page for that where people can listen to the score. But we got some great bands and some really cool songs in there. And all original stuff, and even
the makeup girl got a song in there.
Yeah, she did. She did the song in the end credits, and
7 is her name.
And score wise, I mean, he did everything from the piano trills to the drops to the there's not any temporary or stock music in the whole thing, which is awesome because it was ironic because we were in Chicago Horror Festival a few weeks back. And one of the songs that I had used as a temporary score, because I went through and dropped in temporary sound to kind of give them an idea of how I wanted it to come out, and they put out a trailer for the Chicago Horror Festival, and it had one of those temp songs in it.
Wow.
And I was thinking to myself, like, I'm so glad we got original music because it'd be so embarrassing to screen the film there, and people are watching it and they're like, isn't this the song that was in the trailer for the film festival too? And it's like, oh dude, dodged that bullet. Like, it was like,
So how did you collaborate with the composer, and did you just say, hey, take it and whatever you think, or did you give him any of your ideas?
Well, he did all the editing really, but there were times when I would sit with him, and he put most of the music I
dropped temp score in there to kind of give a tone for it.
It was almost like an outline of what we wanted, all temp music and.
But then when I met with him, I said, listen, this is temp score. And I know him because I've shot a bunch of music videos for him in various band projects, and he's a very talented musician, and his whole group of people are very talented musicians. And and I said, this is temp score, and this is kind of the direction I want it to go, but I really want you to do your own thing first, and then we'll see where that's at and find out where the two meet and kind of go from there.
Yeah, because you want to give people the freedom to create their own.
Yeah, because it's like I trust the fact that he's he's a musician first and foremost, so he knows, and he masters records and he does scores and soundtracks for films, and so I wanted to kind of let him run with it and see where it goes, and pretty much everything he did was really close on the first. It was there wasn't a lot of oh hell no, this song is just crazy. He wrote that whole kind of Nine Inch Nails inspired industrial track when Myron is freaking out in the mirror that kind of comes back. It's the Panda theme that comes back a few times throughout, and one of the things that I really wanted him to do was come up with kind of a noise for Mama's dementia when she starts to have these attacks, and it's very subtle, but you can hear all these little whispering voices and things in there that kind of come in, and
that's something I have to re-listen to.
Yeah, I didn't notice it at first either, and then as I was listening to different mixes of it, I'm like, oh, it's so great that stuff is. It's all these weird layers of things in there that really kind of. I think they just help. They help prop it up without like I said earlier, it's not driving the narrative, but it's reinforcing the narrative.
She was great, by the way. What a great...
Yeah, Roz is fantastic.
She's
such a good actor.
So much fun to work with.
She really was fantastic.
Yeah.
And she just nailed it right away. Too.
Oh.
She was just that lovable grandma that she could like, and like in her face, you could see she could get totally lost in like, you know, the dementia, the confusion of everything. She could go from being like totally present in there to being completely just like.
That's awesome. As an actress
to make that switch.
Yeah, it was really awesome.
That's like a line because before we shot, he suggested I talk to the actors about each scene. So I did Zooms with him, and I did a Zoom with her about it, and she goes, "So what's going on with me?" I go, "Well, you're slipping in and out, and it scares you. You're slipping. You realize you're forgetting shit. You go back to different memories sometimes. So just have that all in your head. The fear." The losing grip of reality of where you are, kind of thing. And I think she
nailed it. Yeah, she really
did a fantastic job.
I've actually had people say to me after watching the film that they really gelled with that and her performance because they have a parent that has dementia or had dementia, and that it was just so realistic to them. It was so like on point in terms of how it is dealing with that, and the fact that 1 second you're having a fine conversation, and the next second they're like, "Who the hell are you? Like, what are you doing in my house?"
They could be doing something insane. They might hurt them.
So that was a really cool night. That was somebody at the Silicon Beach Festival said that to me, and I was like, "Wow, that's pretty rad." Like,
it is really rad.
So you have this film, and this was one of the things when I was watching it, because we are talking about 27-minute, 30-minute film, and you try and cover off a lot of different areas. So like, as a writer, as an actor, as a director of this, like, where do you feel like you were pulling inspiration from at times? Maybe Danny, like if you want to speak to the writing of it, did you pull inspiration from places? There's always within the art form, and there's like a little, I used to call it borrowing, like that deal. We're not going to take it, we're not going to redo it as it was, but I have an idea in my head. And I've seen it happen here before, which was interesting, but how can I make it my own? I
mean, to be honest with you, most of it came from being bullied when I was a kid. I got really badly bullied, man. I mean, people would. It was funny because I went to this Colony High and Albany. I did a show for all the local high schools once. Later on, it was about AIDS, and we were teaching kids about AIDS, whatever. But it was a show. The crazy thing was Albany, which is the city high school, was nowhere near as bad as Colony High. There were animals at my high school. I mean,
sometimes the smaller schools it's like they have those like the little Napoleons with more to prove. You know what I mean? And
they were crazy, and so I pulled most of the bullying from that, and the psychological part. It's like, I mean, you feel like a POW as a kid when you have a tough home life and you got that. And so I understood the trap feeling, because there's nothing I could do. I'm a kid. I can't get away from my family. I can't get out of this yet. And I just had to go through this horrible, piece of childhood. And I just transferred it to an older me. And
I think like what you were saying is like you definitely do in everything, in any kind of art form, you borrow from and you're inspired by things that you see out there, things that mean something to you that leave an imprint on you, and you take that and you turn it around and you make it into your own. Why does that impact me? Oh, because I was in a similar situation to that. So how can I make that into my version of that situation, I mean, obviously, a lot of people get bullied as children, and so I think that's a big thing that everybody can kind of gel with.
Yeah, we wanted to use the anti-hero thing, obviously, because we wanted everybody to love him, so that they wanted these people to die. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's always a weird thing when
you're kind of rooting for him until it's like, oh, and now he took it too far.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, like we're all good
stop. Oh, shit. Never mind. Okay, maybe he is the bad guy.
But and that's why we had that one character. Well, we're kind of giving spoilers all over the place, but
whatever you want us to like bleep out or anything during it, you just let us know.
That's fine.
I mean, that's like Sammy, the girl that he first meets on the bus bench, is kind of like. She almost plays kind of
nice at first.
It's back and forth. It's very much a roller coaster with her, because at first she's sympathetic and nice to him and feels bad for him, and here's my phone number, and then she quickly realizes, oh shit, maybe I went too far with that and I shouldn't have, and and then it gets weird with the dog and she leaves, And then, and then it gets really weird when he keeps calling, and then she's like,
that montage was
and then
so
she's like,
funny.
I want nothing to do with this guy, and then she even flips it on him further later when he goes to that kind of pre-planned party in the frat house.
Yeah.
And then she becomes,
super mean.
Clearly his enemy.
Yep.
Now it's like, I don't want anything to do with you.
Yeah.
So it's kind of this.
It's that line drawn in the sand type of deal, like with anything of setting a boundary and you don't cross those boundaries, but we're also all human. We're every single, like, even if you're the person receiving the bullying, and then the person who's bullying, it's the same deal. Like, when do you go too far?
And the full embarrassment in front of everybody that's a huge thing. I've been embarrassed in front of huge groups of people. That leaves
a burn. That leaves a lasting burn.
Yeah.
You don't forget that soon.
Like the whole party stops. And she's like, "You're a weirdo. You called me all these times. Get that kind of thing." And everybody's just staring at the guy. And he was just trying to enjoy the little party,
Is there a part of you that feels like, if Myron just would have called one more time, he could have cleared it all up and none of
I think if he only would have called one time.
Got it.
I think he stepped way beyond that possibility.
I think after
the second call, it was no going back.
After the 10th call in a row, I think it was pretty much there's nothing you could
sealed
do.
That was beyond
the
sealed.
dating portion of this is to remind you: 1 to 2, you're fine. 3, you're getting into weird territory.
And usually give it a few hours before you call.
Don't
run home and start calling. For notes on that, watch Swingers.
Exactly.
Oh God, that's
we did.
That's good. I like that.
I did gather some inspiration from Swingers. That's true.
I
hadn't even thought about that. Okay.
That scene was definitely kind of I would say that's probably the most derivative scene.
Yeah.
Just in terms of a nod to that whole
I
scenario.
saw that.
Awkward.
I saw that scene in the theater in Swingers, and it was the funniest thing to me because it was almost like a horror film for dudes.
You're
no!
You're just like, oh God,
the cringiness of everything.
Stop.
It works every time.
You feel yourself,
really well.
you're shrinking into your chair like, oh shit, he's gonna do it again. Oh God.
All the women are laughing because all their boyfriends are like in fetal position on the seats.
Yeah.
It was.
Oh my God. It's interesting that you outline it that way, and like you felt that Jacob and I we're working on our own script. Ours is more of a comedy. There's some very funny elements in Party Panda though that I really like, but we're finding that same thing too. Of it's like you have this great idea in your head, and you're like, oh wait a minute, no, that's not original. Someone else did, but then you go, yeah, but how do you just flip it? How do you flip it and make it your own thing? It's like they pulled from somewhere, that they pulled from somewhere.
Yeah,
and it's all this beautiful conglomerate.
You look back through any film. I mean, you can
build on the wheel.
compare.
Yeah.
You look at Fritz Lang's Metropolis, and then you compare it to current day films. Blade Runner bites off of that, and Blade Runner has become the gold standard of sci-fi futuristic films, which everybody has bitten off of, and it's. So it's like with any art, with fine art, with painting, illustration, you pay it forward. Everybody takes inspiration from things that happened in the past. I mean, Scorsese, when he did what's the one in Boston? Departed.
Yeah.
It's a shot-for-shot rip-off of a Japanese film. I mean, literally, you can watch the two side by side, and it literally is every shot is the same.
What's the film?
I'm not going to remember right now. It's a little Google search for me.
No, that was. I think you're thinking of Tarantino, and that was.
Well, Tarantino does it as well.
He did a shot-for-shot.
In every Tarantino movie, there are shot-for-shot sequences that model earlier movies.
Yeah.
He grew up working in a video store, watching all of these old films, and literally saying, "I love this scene," and taking that scene and making it into a scene in his movie with his characters instead. So it's like that's
love it.
And if you look at,
I don't think that's something to avoid. I think that's something to embrace and to make your own.
And it's a tool. It's a tool to drive the story, and it's just like if you look at the old comedies, all the old school comedies. A lot of that is used in modern day movies, especially with the comedy, the pratfalls, the situation switches, all that kind of stuff. I mean,
look at music, for example. How many notes are there in music? There's only 6 notes, 7 notes. It's the combination you put together of those notes. And how many songs start off and you're like, oh wait, this is, and then it's not because it goes a different direction.
And they have those comedians who they start singing, they do a chord riff or whatever, and they sing 10 different songs with that same.
Yeah,
so it's
I mean, there are lawsuits.
Axis of Awesome has a song called the 4-Chord Song.
Yeah.
And it's awesome song.
There are lawsuits constantly. Hey, this person ripped off my song, and it's like, well, but I mean, you've only got this many tools in the box, so how many times can you put it together in a different way? Like,
100%.
You know,
exactly.
So I don't know. I mean, I think that's something to embrace and to I mean, give a nod to the people that got you to where you are and creatively inspired you to get to where what you're trying to say. You know.
Yeah, I got another movie I wrote, and I did the transformation scene in American Werewolf. I wanted to make that for this different guy that turns into this creature. So this Grim Reaper. So, you glean stuff that works, but you don't.
Don't plagiarize it.
Right, exactly.
Make it your own.
Yeah.
But
if you're going to, don't make any money from it.
Yeah. And don't use AI.
Right.
Because all that does is plagiarize.
Right. That's true.
But
so when you write a script like you did, and I know you mentioned this, you kind of had like a one-on-one with your actors and kind of like speaking to what your vision is. Can you kind of talk to what that process was like and kind of how you're kind of really voicing what your vision is of this picture, not only to you but to the whole cast?
Well, yeah, it's that's the thing that we talked about a lot, me and him, because we wanted to make sure that everybody got the vision everybody want. Because look, you want everybody on set to want this movie to be great.
Mm-hmm.
So you want them to see your vision of why it will be great. And with the actors, I just had to make sure actors really care about their character. So I had to really try to just talk to them and say, this is where you're coming from, this is what you're dealing with. If you want to bring stuff into it, use all your acting tools to bring it in there. But the vision basically is all of us on an amped up level. We're all struggling, we're all going through struggles, and there comes breaking points, and most of us stay with societal norms and rules, but I amped it up on this, and so basically you just got to amp up,
And to speak to that same point, like I had a lot of conversations with all the actors leading up to filming about the backstory for their characters, because I feel like for actors that's a big thing to draw on. Like, why is my character doing what they're doing right now? Well, because they've been through this hell before they got here, right?
Yeah.
So it's like, if you contextualize the backstory to what got them to where they're at, what is Brad? He's a bully to everybody. Why? Because he's really just an insecure prick, so he's acting out to show that he's the, alpha dog because he probably gets beat up at home by his dad, and so, a lot of small conversations like that leading up to it, and then kind of letting them run with that and make it your own, Yeah. And I think that's something that everybody did in the film was they took their characters and they really made it their own character based on personal experiences with those little crumbs of backstory,
Yeah, we didn't
always go back to this, but make it your own so you have something to draw from.
Yeah, one thing we didn't have enough time for, and we both wish we did.
Rehearsals.
We had no rehearsals. We had no table read.
No table read, really.
No table read, which sucked, but
But it was hard to get everybody together, and we set a deadline, and we only had
schedule was out of control leading up to it,
and limited funding.
Yeah,
if we had more funding, we could have paid for rehearsals, but we didn't have that money.
Those are the kind of in the indie film world. That's the kind of shit that you're up against. Is
but it's a learning process too.
Time versus money versus everybody's schedule. Everybody's got a real job, and so. Getting all of those people into one place, like Roz who plays Mama lives down in Orange County.
Oh wow!
And some people are in Sherman Oaks, and some people. The dude that plays Tim Carson didn't even live here at the time.
Yeah, right.
He came out here, and we didn't know at the time. We found out later he was sleeping in his car while we were filming.
We had no idea. Yeah.
And he was showering at the gym, and I'm like, dude, I wish you should have let me know. I have an extra bedroom. You could have totally stayed at my place. But he came out just for that role because he's starting out in his career and he wants to cut his teeth on projects, and he was going straight from our shoot to another movie back in somewhere in the South on the East Coast right afterwards.
Yep.
It's like, so getting everybody together logistically was not possible, which sucks. But
well, it will be in our next one when we have more money.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. I mean, it's money, time.
If you have money, you can make it happen. The problem is when you don't have money, you can't just tell everybody what to do because you're not paying them.
So we tried to make up for that aspect of that shortcoming by working individually with each person at least a little while beforehand to try and get them in the right space for things. And
I think mostly it was good casting though, too.
Yeah, I was gonna say that as well.
How did you do the casting?
Strength in casting.
We used Actors Access, but
we used another one as well, but I don't think we cast anybody from it.
My girlfriend we cast because I knew she was a good actor, and his buddy, he showed me this. He did an audition. It was phenomenal. I'm like, this guy is great, and so.
That was for the role of Brad. And
Brad.
Justin absolutely killed it because he's just a professional actor.
He's such a
he did really good.
Great dude. But I mean, we had
sweetest guy in the world, by the way.
It was
couldn't tell.
Yeah,
it was during. But it's funny because he often gets those kind of roles. Like he gets killed in the Punisher TV series.
Oh, really?
And, but he's got a great history. He came up acting in soap operas, so he's a very improvisational actor. He knows his role and he knows how to react and act based on that role, which came in super handy a lot of the times because it was like he could just pivot and alter. But like for that role, I mean, there was that was at the time when there was the actors' strike going on and everything, and we did it. We did the film as a SAG ultra low budget.
Yeah.
So we got their blessing to shoot, but there were so many people available. We had 570 auditions for that role.
Wow.
Yeah.
It was just insane, and it was. I'm just sitting there for days, just.
And
it was like Tinder for actors.
Because
you typically know within for a submission, you'll see within about 5 seconds, right?
You start with a look that you want,
right.
And then I trim that down from 570 to about 60.
Wow.
And then we kind of look through all those, and we're like, okay, this guy, I could see it, that guy, no, probably not.
And we went back
and
and
forth.
forth.
Then you watch them slating.
Yeah.
Then you watch them slating, and you just see how they move and how they talk. Then you narrow it even further. Then you're down to about 20. Then you actually watch their auditions. Like there's no time in the world.
You can't possibly watch every single audition.
It's crazy. So it starts out as like a Tinder swipe scenario where you're just like, no. Oh yeah, that one. I can see that one. I can see that one. No.
Well, the ones who had videos, those were immediately put on a short list because anybody without a video.
What am I going to do with that?
Nothing.
Yeah.
And then you get some people that just they're just going through and applying to everything. And you're like, did you read the description? Because I'm looking I'm looking for this, and you're like,
There was one that was really bad.
There was one dude that was like 65 or something.
trying to play Brad.
And I'm just like, did you even read the description of the character? Like, oh my god.
He goes, I can play
really
14 to 77.
I'm like, dude, we don't have that filter on the camera. Like, we just don't have that. Like, I can't young you up like that. I don't have the budget.
Well, they might have come in and been like, listen, I know I don't fit any description, but I was thinking we throw a grandfather in there.
This guy, so Myron's been at college for 20 years. This dude's been there even longer.
For 50.
Well, here's the problem. It makes what Myron's doing not as weird.
Exactly, and that was definitely a big conversation that we had too.
That was hysterical.
We were trying to age everybody down so that he.
Because I mean, obviously, a lot of actors weren't college.
But then it's like the counter argument to that is you watch anything on Netflix and
same thing.
And you're like, these people are in high school, like Euphoria.
Yeah, it's the same thing.
Euphoria. Yeah. Those people are supposedly in high school. Get the hell out of here.
Yeah.
Dudes are like full beards and shit in high school. I'm like, man, there was one dude in my high school that had a full beard. Yeah. One guy. He bought everybody alcohol. That's the only dude who had a beard, man.
It's funny you say. We're doing a bunch of Halloween movies reviews for them right now because we're in the month for it. Right. I went back and watched Scream. I'm just like, not even close.
And it's almost like they don't even try. And it's like I get suspension of disbelief to a point. But it's like if everybody's in their like late 30s and we're playing that as like teenagers, I mean, come on. Like,
yeah, but everybody does it. It's weird with horror. With horror, especially.
You contextualize it.
Yeah.
I mean, it becomes way less important.
Especially because you're going to get better actors when they're a little older. Because young actors, there are some really good young actors.
It's harder to find.
Yeah, it's a lot harder to find a good young actor because life experience makes you a better actor.
Yep.
You know,
you
so
hit the nail on that one.
So that was definitely a factor for sure as well. And then,
so,
another thing we really tried to avoid throughout was any kind of modernization. Like originally we
were gonna we cut out cell phones,
scooters and cell phones, and I'm just like, I don't want any of that shit in the script. I want it to be vaguely in the past.
Yeah. Yep.
Like it's not in the past. There are flat screen TVs, but you don't draw any attention to it, and it just goes away. But I didn't want texting and cell phones and the myriad of problems that come with that whole world in a horror film. Oh my God, we're out of service in the middle of somewhere. How could this be so? Oh my God, AT&T must be bad. Fuck all of that. It's like
of course the battery dies when you
exactly.
Right.
Yeah, how many times it's like one of those bad there's like a commercial right now for some insurance company or something when they're all running and they're like, let's just get in the car that's running. No, let's hide over here by the wall of chainsaws.
Yeah,
it's just like,
that's a great commercial.
It's fantastic. But it's like, so it's like if you can avoid those kind of things, then you avoid all of those kind of generic horror tropes that everybody seems to fall into. And it's like the problem is always how do you deal with modern technology?
And I'm always taken out of the movie when someone texts.
Yeah, whenever there's so we spent a lot of time leading up to shooting the short, going through the script and saying, well, okay, what about this? What if we lose this? Okay, do we really need that versus this?
Oh yeah, and the other thing was we had to change some of the deaths because for the feature.
Why did you have to change some of the deaths? Like what went into it?
Well, like originally.
I mean, we're gonna have some of them the same, but part of it is we wanted some for people who did see the short. We wanted to make it a little more original. And one of the things I always try to do when I'm writing is try to write something that nobody's ever seen, which is why Party Panda, nobody's ever seen a character like that, and we try to do the deaths. We're trying to do the deaths.
Trying to give them something new, yeah.
Yeah.
And I mean, even in the short film though, we had to change some of the deaths because for like. I mean, there's all sorts of reasons, like logistic reasons, like for example. The Sammy character originally fell out the window and down a sewer or those basement storm doors with the stairs.
And she hit the cement stairs.
And we're like, love that idea, but like, there's literally no basements with storm doors anywhere in Los Angeles. I'm like, so are we gonna build this scenario on a stage or in somebody's yard? And what is that going to cost versus, okay, so you change things like that because of budget, because of time, because of availability.
But we saved a lot of money on budget because his brother is a great artist. And we started talking, he started showing me some of the work, and we were like, hey, what if we, instead of showing something that's going to cost way too much money, put it in a sketch.
And I really like that. I thought that was a really cool thing to do.
It served two masters, right? Because on one hand, it was an easy way to get away with things that we can't afford to show.
Yep.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, it amplifies his character as like his escape from reality in traumatic moments is to sit down and draw in his sketchbook.
Yep.
Which you realize at the very end, when he's sitting there and there's all those sketches on the wall and everything, it's like, oh, like this dude has been at this for a long time, and clearly it's either very premeditated and he knew what was going to go on, or maybe it never even happened at all, because how the hell would he draw these exact scenarios before they happened? So and that's something we build on in the feature version is that whole aspect of his character starting at a very young age. Like that's his Panda movie.
As an artist,
as Mama has the Panda movie to kind of get back to her base level, he escapes into his world of his sketchbook where anything is possible, anything can happen.
Yep.
He creates his own reality there, and so that's kind of his runaway.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a fun story. I really liked the ending of her. I liked how she kind of got killed, and I wrote in my notes, I'm like, oh, great ending, great payback.
Guys, We've been going for a bit here. We got a couple more minutes, and one of the things I wanted to talk to you all about and get your perspective. Again, we're in Halloween territory, so it's kind of a two-parter. Whichever one of you wants to start. Which is your must-see? Like you're gonna watch it every single Halloween, or at least during the month of October. What's that one movie, and why? Uriah, if you want to go first.
Boy, yeah, that's a tricky one. My immediate thought, just off the top, I would say Beetlejuice, the original one.
Of course.
Not that the new one is good. I watched that a week ago, and it definitely delivered. But the original one, just because it's so fucking kooky, you know, it's Tim Burton at the height of Tim Burton. It's just such a zany, ridiculous concept, and it's like Michael Keaton just nails it, and it's just such a cool, bizarre world, and it's like I feel like there's definitely elements of that kind of insanity in the Party Panda world, and I watch that one every year, and I've even done that as a costume for a few years.
For me, it would be American Werewolf in London. That movie transcended, it changed the horror genre. It completely changed the horror genre. That transformation scene with practical effects was incredible.
Great, yeah.
The scene at the bar, you watch that scene, they walk into the bar, and all these actors they're intense. They're all, it's like even the extras were brilliant actors. It was so freaking amazing to me. And it would skirt that line too. Because, you know, he'd be talking to his buddy's corpse, and buddy's corpse would be joking with him. Yeah. You know what I mean? I love that mix.
Any world that dances the line between kind of the reality and the psychoses of the character, I think is really just kind of a cool space to be in.
Yeah.
It's really just an interesting...
Yeah.
It's like the psychology of that is... Because, I mean, we all hear... little voices on our shoulder, or hey, you should do this. Why would
Wait, is that a bad thing?
You know what I mean? But it's like so. It's
I don't make any decisions without.
In my mind, I find that to be so relatable because it's like there is that kind of voice in your head that at times is you're like, shut the hell up, and other times you're like, maybe I will.
I'll just get into it.
Where does that line?
Yeah.
It's like that line gets blurry at some point. It's like where does it blur into? You've gone too far, and that's the zone that we wanted to dance in. With
and I don't know. I wanted to tell you guys this. The reason I came up with the idea is just ridiculous. Okay, I went to the Dollar Tree, and I saw this. They were selling T-shirts for like $1 or $5, whatever. And I see this panda shirt. It's a panda shirt.
Is it the one that you have on right now?
No. This was kind of a...
It's like he's got like sunglasses on.
Yeah, he's got sunglasses, he's got a party cup, and in the reflection of the sunglasses you see polar bears drinking, and it's like gray and white tie-dye except for the red cup, and it says Party Animal, and
Party Panda.
It's almost 3Ds, and everybody loved the shirt, right? So it was Halloween, this was like 5 years ago, I had no costume, but there was a girl coming over that was a makeup person, because she used to live there and she was picking up a check. I go, I'll give you your check, but you gotta make my face look like a panda. Because I have no costume. Right? So she made my face look like a panda. I go out, nobody recognizes me, which was shocking to me. Right? And I'm like, so this is kind of like a way to be anonymous, and which is a lot of Halloween costumes are like that. And I took a picture, and I looked at it, I go, this is so creepy. I gotta write a story about a serial killer that does this, that dresses like this. And I've got the actual picture that I took, that I made a meme of 5 years ago. It's unbelievable, man. It's, let me see, albums, Party Panda. See, I have an album on my phone for you now. And this is the picture I took.
Yes. I love it.
Isn't it?
That's the birth. That's the birth.
Oh God, we gotta get that a close up on the
we'll
camera.
put that in.
Send him a JPEG.
Yeah, we'll just send us a picture.
There you go. I'll send
It's
it.
gonna be
We love
bad.
it.
But yeah, so we can thank the Dollar Tree.
So are you going to be Party
Thanks,
Panda?
The Dollar Tree and your poor planning.
Last minute shenanigans and Dollar Tree.
Yeah.
You gotta love it. Gotta love it.
That's awesome. Well, Danny, Uriah, dude, thanks for the opportunity, both of you coming in, sharing about your movie. If you'd like to, if you want to give like a quick little sign off, what's next for you all, where people can go and, outside festivals, if there is a way for them to watch a movie or just track your progress, that'd be awesome.
Well, yeah, I mean, first off, if you go to partypandafilm.com, that has
Trailer.
updates, it has the trailer, it has stills from the film, it has any of the upcoming festivals with links to get tickets to them, as well as any kind of
This guy
upcoming
works his butt off.
We have social medias, Party Panda Film on Instagram as well as Facebook, which also have all of that information kind of bouncing around.
We've got another project we might be shooting too, coming up soon, and
Yeah, there's many irons in the fire, but
Yep.
right now we're really focusing on kind of
Getting this-
developing the feature film version, which we're like we said earlier, we're somewhere in the 5th revision or so of the feature script there, and
we'll probably
it's
have
coming
5
along
more.
very nicely. Always, but and we've got some funding lined out, but we're looking for more funding to try and get it to kind of a point where we can really kind of pull out all the stops and make it a real solid picture.
Yep.
So, and then at some point we will ultimately release the short film outside of the festival circuit. I mean, I think we have festivals submitted through about this time next year at this point.
Yeah,
so,
it's crazy.
That is crazy.
Yeah, we actually I had a film festival in the Love and Hope Festival in Barcelona.
Oh, we gotta say
this
thank
time
you.
last year, and
We-
we got into that festival as well, but it was too late for them to fit us into the
So
programming.
they're putting us
So
in
they've
this-
invited us to
Wow.
come back next year
That's
to be
great.
in the
That is
festival.
really cool.
And we got to thank our investors.
Oh, absolutely, yeah. Patrick, Garrett, and Colin McDonald.
Yep. We gotta thank
and
them.
everybody involved in the.
Without them, it
program.
wouldn't have happened.
Everybody who lent us their house and let us bleed all over it, and
The Barrel Bar.
yeah, and all the bars that helped us out, and everybody on the cast and crew as well.
Oh, and the Good Night. The Good
Yeah,
Night.
Good Night as
We
well.
used their back parking lot for one of the
We didn't
scenes.
do anything easy. The frat house is 3 different houses. The
Yeah.
bar is 2 different bars.
We had like 6 locations, sometimes 3 a day.
Wow.
And it was like we shot it all in 6 days. It was crazy.
That's impressive, actually.
I was
It was
literally.
a sprint.
I was.
That's how everything in life is, isn't it? That's worth doing.
I come from a commercial background. I did a lot of live events and produced a lot of live events and commercials and things. So it's like
And we gotta
that,
thank
that
Cal,
last
by the way.
minute hustle is definitely.
I was
always
hallucinating by the end. I was like so like, I shouldn't have been driving to set. Let me put it that way.
Well, we're
Earmuffs,
glad you
kids,
made it.
earmuffs.
You
Yeah,
didn't
and we'll
succumb to
definitely
it.
circle back with you guys like when it comes
Yeah,
time.
definitely.
We release the panda into the wild.
Yeah, and Cal gave us his house.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cal McRae.
Yeah.
We'd love to. I mean, look, if you guys are comfortable with it, Jacob and I have both seen it. We'd love to give our final review, our final stamp on it.
Alright.
Just as a reminder to everyone too, like continue to support. Not only look, we're A-list members for AMC. We love going to see the new big movies that are out, but it's just you miss so much more that's out there.
Yeah.
The indie film circuit.
Absolutely.
All these artists that are making really interesting work, go and support them if you go and check out their page. And if they're in town, go to the frickin' festival and maybe throw out a few shekels. I don't know, just to help get the funding going.
Definitely.
And you'll definitely, you go to an independent film festival, you'll see some really cool films. Like there's a lot of cool films that we've gotten to see just from being in the festivals
Yeah.
that other people are making. And it's like, there's people complain about Hollywood only has 2 ideas and they keep remaking the ideas.
It's so not
There
true.
are so
Independent
many
films.
ideas out there that don't get any airplay
Yep.
because nobody watches these independent film
Yeah.
festivals.
And that's what we really want to do. We want to really just living in LA. Let's just go to these film festivals.
Yeah.
See them.
Yep.
Give,
You know what,
give them the
it'll
highlights.
be the best $20 you spent for a day watching, 15 short films,
Yep.
and like even if 12 of the 15 are terrible, you walk away with 3 really cool films that you saw. That's a win, man.
Yep.
That's a
Yeah.
win.
Yep.
We don't believe in terrible films. We believe in learning experiences.
They might not be terrible. They might just not be your taste.
And I think with that, guys, thanks so much for tuning in, for watching. You guys, more importantly, Thanks for coming in.
You guys are awesome. You guys are really awesome.
Danny.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you guys.
Awesome.
Thank you.
All right, everybody. Till next time.
Oh,
Peace.
You got something?
yeah, we got to say our social media. Danny P. McDermott on Facebook. Danny McDermott LA. Danny McDermott LA on Instagram.
Mine has a dash and then Uriah Herr and then a dash on Instagram.
And I'll tag.
We're gonna throw it into. We're gonna throw it
down.
down in there.
We'll throw it all in there
Yeah.
too. We'll tag you guys.
Thank you.
Awesome.
All right,
Thanks,
appreciate
guys.
you guys.
Thank you.
Thank you
You're
guys.
very.